Hey guys, welcome back to the internet. So since everyone seems to be watching these videos for the cat, I think I'm going to try and include some kind of cat video at the end of all of my videos, just as a reward to those who actually watch the whole thing. So this first story comes from Tales from Tech Support called, "What exactly did you think shutting down meant?" So I got this call a few months back, and to this day it remains one of my favorite stories. It's also one that makes me heavily question my company's priorities when it comes to staffing. It's about 2 in the afternoon and a call rolls in. I answer with the always beloved, canned greeting, and on the other end of the phone is a nice sounding lady. We exchange pleasantries while I collect info for her ticket. She doesn't sound young, but also not particularly old. That said, I'd say she was at the very least young enough to know better. So anyway, she's having some problem or another. Truth be told, I don't remember what. I do remember it was one of those bog, standard problems you solve a dozen times a day, nothing serious. But midway through some of my starting questions, she chimes in. "Yeah, so I talked to the manager before I called in, and he says people who have this problem have been fixing it by shutting down the computer, so I did that, and now the screen is all dark, and I can't do anything. What happened?" "I'm sorry, what?" is what I did not reply, though I definitely thought it. What I actually did was painfully choke down the chuckle involuntarily rising in my throat, and ask if she powered the computer back on as she shut it down. "What do you mean turn it on? I never had to do that." Oh boy. So I direct her to the big round button on her desktop, and tell her to go ahead and push it, which she does. "Okay, so I did that, and all these lights came on and it started making whirring noises. So I pushed it again and it stopped." Oh boy. After that, things wrapped up without much issue. She turns the computer back on. Whatever problem she had was, in fact, solved by that reboot. So, wins all around. She's ecstatic, thanks me for being a genius, and hangs up. Ultimately nothing special, and she was very nice and easy to work with. Heck, I'd rather my calls be more of those and less of the type I typically get. But to this day, I'm just baffled as to what the company was thinking giving some of these people computers and access to sensitive data. There's computer illiteracy, and then there's not knowing to turn it on. Also, looking at her job title, I'm positive she makes way more than me, and that made me existentially depressed for a few minutes. Wait, so this was somebody in your company that you were working with? This wasn't just some random old lady that called in? You know, who knew computers run on electricity and they need to be turned on to work? Alright, so this next one comes from Imagine the Internet. And it seems like the whole Walmart stories have really become a popular topic around here ever since I made that question of the day, like 2 days ago. So this story is called Walmart Slip and Slide. So I used to work at Walmart as an overnight stalker. It was a real crappy job, and my assigned area at the time was the pharmacy aisle. Nothing behind the counter, just your vitamins and NyQuil. I didn't work there long, but it was chill for most nights. One night, I'm stocking the shelves when I hear some yelling. Me and my coworker didn't understand who would be making fuss at 1 a.m. and assumed there was an accident. Nope, just a couple of college kids unscrewing shampoo bottles from the nearby aisle that had all the soaps, shampoos, basically your bathtub necessities, and spilling the contents on the floor, and then dropping down to slide over the slick surface, shouting and wooing like a bunch of drunken idiots. No management was ever called, and me and my coworker spent the next half hour cleaning up the mess. I know this isn't the best story, but it's all I have. Man, what did I just say about Walmart in that Walmart video? It's like, this is like working at a circus. You never know what might be going down over at Wally World. Alright, now for the obligatory Entitled Parents story, called Entitled Mom Tries to Steal My Mom's Purchased Parking Space. So when I was in first grade, my mom would drop my siblings and I off at school every day. She purchased the parking space reserved for her because she would park in her spot to drop us off rather than waiting in line. And she also helped in school events a lot. The parking spot had a sign that said, "Reserved for OP's mom." So one day, as my mom was pulling into the school, another car was parking in her spot. My mom kept her cool and found a parking space much further out, and then ran over to stop the driver before she went into the school so that my mom could get her spot back. On this specific day, my mom had a lot of supplies to carry in to help in some school event. This is paraphrased from what I kinda remember and from what I've been told. My mom says, "Excuse me, ma'am, but this is my spot." She says, "Oh, okay." Then she kept walking into the school. My mom says, "Can you please move your vehicle so I can park here?" She says, "How do I know this is even your spot? Because my name is on the sign right in front of your car? Please, ma'am, I purchased this spot. Just move your vehicle." She says, "No, I got here first and I need the spot more." She says, "You barely got here before me, and even if you needed the spot more, I paid for it." She says, "But I need this spot to walk in my kid. I need to get to work." My mom says, "Okay, so just walk your child in and then please move." So my mom ran back to her car to wait for the entitled mom to leave. We came early anyway, so we could wait, since school wasn't starting for a few minutes. 10 minutes passed, so my mom sent my siblings and I in, and then she went back to the entitled mom. Says, "Ma'am, please move." She says, why should I have to move? Because this is my spot and I thought you had to go to work. She says, I shouldn't have to move for rich pricks like you just because you bought this spot. This spot didn't even cost that much. I only have it because I help the school often and I need a place to carry things in. She says, BS, I'm staying here as long as I like. So my mom goes to retrieve the principal to help with the situation. The principal says, ma'am, you have to move. This isn't your parking spot. I don't have to do anything. I have the right to park here. Ma'am, not only is this OP's mom's spot, so she should have it anyway, she also needs it to carry in supplies for the event she organized and supplied today for the school. Mom says, please, ma'am. She says, no, I'm not moving for you effers. Principal says, ma'am, this is an elementary school. Please try to be calm. Eventually, the entitled mom sped off after being very late for work, and my mom took her spot to unload supplies. My mom made sure to come early for a while, and almost every day that entitled mom would show up and pull up to my mom's spot, only to find her there. Then she would dangerously speed down the parking lot to find a more distant spot. There were a few other people who stole her spot on accident, but they always apologized and moved for my mom. Wait, so this lady kept trying to do it over and over again? She sounds incredibly petty. Alright, now let's try, blame me for your cheating because I didn't do your laundry? Okay. So I dated an a-hole before dear hubby. He was the cheating kind. We'll call him Chad. About 6 months into our relationship, some girl from another school went into a crazy rage that Chad was cheating on her with me, spammed everyone in her address book with the news, left me some wild and crazy voicemails, genuinely lost her crap very publicly on him. Upon confronting Chad with his shocking news, he made a terrible mistake. He decided to blame me for his cheating. If I just did the laundry and made dinner more often, he wouldn't have to cheat on me. How these things are related is baffling. But it definitely got him on the express train to X-Town. We didn't even live together, so it was an especially odd choice for the blame and shame game. I did, however, have keys to his place, and malice was in my heart. You want me to do your laundry? I'll do your laundry. I swung by the local big box bath store and picked up the cheapest bright red towel they had. You know, the one that will exude dye for its entire lifespan as a towel turning everything that will ever get near it pink. Then I loaded up his washer with my towel of bleeding dye, and everything white I could find in the hamper. Underwear, socks, t-shirts, you name it. It was going to be pink. Then I executed the tackiest breakup of my life. You think getting dumped by a text message is bad? I did it by post-it note. Right on the lid of the washer, I left a "we're through" type message, just in case the number of names I called him after that blame and shame attempt hadn't made it completely clear. He had sort of run away before I got all the way to "we're over." It worked even better than I'd hoped because he didn't come home for a few days. He'd bugged out to visit his family for a long weekend to avoid the heat from 2 angry women and all their friends. By the time he got home, he had a damp, pink, mildewy mess in his washer. Based on the angry voicemails I got, I guess Chad really didn't want me to do his laundry after all. I feel like breaking up with cheaters is like the best excuse for you to finally get to pull some very elaborate scheme. I mean, malicious compliance is really based around this type of scenario. I'm curious, with some of the comments, have you ever done some sort of malicious breakup? I'd like to hear about them. Alright, we got another one called, Entitled Mom wants me to have preemie baby so it won't outshine her birthday. So since I was a kid, my mom has been self-centered first and parents second. I could easily write novels worth of posts here about growing up with her. I developed a severe anxiety disorder very young, in large part due to the things she would do and say to me. She is not an evil person. I genuinely believe she did the best she could, but just didn't have the skill set for success. As an adult, I feel sad for her because it must be terrible to be stuck with a brain that works in such negative ways. Thanks to therapy, I have fortunately come a long way since my most anxious younger days. That being said, she is the same old entitled mom from my childhood, and I think it would help me more to get out my rant here than to scream at her, so here it goes. So this happened a couple weeks ago. I'm pregnant with my first child. I've wanted a baby for as long as I can remember, and it took us a long time of trying to finally become pregnant. I won't bother with details, but once it finally happened, there were persistent signs of a miscarriage looming that doctors were warning us of over the first trimester. Needless to say, my partner and I spent about the first 3 months stressed beyond belief and scared of losing what we both wanted so badly. Everything seemed to be going smoothly now, and we're just starting to come down from that fear and enjoying the daily growth of our baby. Flash forward to me finally feeling comfortable enough to tell my entitled mom that I'm pregnant, as well as the horror story that we'd been dealing with leading up to this announcement. She showed very little interest. You know, picture telling someone it's supposed to be nice weather this weekend. That's the extent of the joy shown. I wasn't overly surprised since it's typical of her and did my best to focus on our excitement. Then came her learning of my due date, 8 days before her birthday. Suddenly, her interest peaked to a flustered reaction, and she made a comment or two about that not being ideal. I brushed it off and changed the subject soon after. About a month later, I was in town without my partner and stopped by her house quickly. Almost as soon as I sat down, she started in with what I could tell had been on her mind since our last visit/announcement, minus the flustered bit. This time she was ready. This was the convo. She says, "You know, December really isn't a good month to have the baby. We already have so much going on that month. It's really going to get in the way of things." I say, "What things will we have the baby interfere with?" She says, "Well, there's Christmas to plan for, and my birthday." I say, "So 2 things then?" She says, "No, it's also the neighbor's birthday, and your sister's birthday is the beginning of next month. I think it's just going to be too hectic with all of that going on." So a side note, my half-sister is significantly older than me, at 50 years old, and we have never once celebrated her birthday since she only visits about once a year at best. The neighbor is an 18-year-old boy that has zero affiliation to our family, and the entitled mom just happened to know his birthday is December, and somehow thought throwing this in helped her case. I say, "Okay, well I guess we'll have to find room to squeeze my unborn child in there, because there really isn't much I can do about it." So my entitled mom, ignoring my last remark and continuing with her train of thought, says, 5-pound babies that arrive early are so much cuter than full-grown ones anyway, because they're so little." I say, "Given what we've already been through, if anything, I'd rather the baby was born a little later than early, so it's fully developed, and has the best chance at it being healthy." She says, "Having the baby a few weeks early isn't going to make that much difference. Lots of healthy babies come early." So me, gritting my teeth at this point, say, "So are you suggesting I go tell my midwife or a doctor that I need to be induced or have a preterm C-section in November because a grandchild in December really doesn't fit into your hectic schedule?" She sees my anger rising, says, "It's just something to consider." Well, this exchange sums up my entitled mom in a nutshell. At 71 years old, her main concern about the birth of her grandchild is that it will outshine her own special day. Since this exchange, I have told several people my due date whose birthdays are also in December, and every reaction from those people has been excitement and comments about how fun sharing birthdays would be, and jokes about the best babies being born in the month of December. You know, sane reactions to happy news. Thanks for listening, everyone. I needed that. That reminds me, so my birthday is coming up at the end of July, so any of you viewers who have July birthdays, you're going to need to move those out of the way while we're celebrating my birthday, okay? You guys really need to just think about my needs. Alright, we got one more big story for the day. We got a lot of long stories for today. So this is a revenge story called "Scum of a Man Hires My Unit to Do a Job. After refused to pay us, so I help ruin him." To be clear, my original post was written in Spanish via Google Translate. I copy and paste the end result. Oh, this should be fun. So first, I'm a security officer with a private investigator certification, which allows me to take PI cases as long as it doesn't interfere with local police investigations. And any crimes that I witness must be reported to the police ASAP so they can make an arrest. So PI cases come from a few sources. We are sometimes contracted by local police to do what's referred to as spotters work, where we are brought on active wide area investigations to do recon work, and look, but not interact with anything that might be involved with the case. Basically, we're just there for an extra pair of eyes. Or the local police will mix us in a surveillance operation, and we would follow low-profile individuals and report their day-to-day activities. These are completely confidential. Then there is client contracts. This is where corporate clients contact our employees' personal investigations unit to investigate their employees' day-to-day activities while on the job to see if there is some hint that an employee is committing a crime, and to report if there is reasonable proof that an employee is breaking the law on company time. The job is to gather evidence to prove guilt or innocence. These aren't confidential, but we usually sign a non-disclosure agreement. Finally, there's personal contracts. When a person wants to hire a personal investigator to do a job, it's usually something along the lines of a husband or a wife suspects their spouse of cheating on them and wants some kind of proof. Or someone is looking for a relative or lost family and is trying to reconnect with them. There's a no-disclosure agreement, and it's up to the client to draw up a disclosure agreement. Most don't, but we keep quiet as professional courtesy. Okay, now that the job description is done, let me tell you what happened. About 3 years ago, I had been hired to do a personal contract. The client, a rich, sleazy snob, was apparently stupidly rich. He hired my unit. When I say my unit, I mean the unit I worked for with a 5-man team. He believes his wife was cheating on him with other people, and he wanted proof of this so he could start his divorce process with solid evidence. He contracted us in a 6-month contract, and was to pay the company X amount of dollars upon completion. So he set up surveillance cameras all over his large house and in the woman's car with the client's permission. We had at least one of the team tailing her at all times. Good times, day in, day out, we watched their lives. And in this line of work, you either get detached or emotionally invested, like watching a soap opera. As we watched them, we quickly saw this lady was a freaking saint. She volunteered at a soup kitchen and a children's hospital. She helped the local churches can food drives, those kinds of things. She was the perfect definition of what a good human should be. On the other hand, the husband was a total bastard. He was the one we caught many times bringing women into his house. Sometimes he would bring 2 or 3 girls in one day, and that's only what was recorded in the house. We arrive at the 4-month mark, which is basically where we show all the evidence and give the 3-quarter report. We show him everything that we found, and have a 6-hour debrief with the video and audio support, showing that she hadn't done any wrongdoing other than a speeding ticket and a few double park situations. After we concluded the debrief, he looked stupefied. He said, "So you didn't catch her cheating? Then what's the point of me hiring you?" So my boss, our captain, turns to him with a serious stare, which is perhaps the most serious and badass looking face I've ever seen in that man, and said, "You hired us to You hired us to investigate your wife. You're happy that your wife is an honest and... You're unhappy that your wife is an honest and faithful woman?" "Hey, Faye, I'm kind of busy right now." "Hey, maybe later. I'll meet you in bed." Ugh. Are you stuck? So the snob is visibly annoyed. He stands up and is getting his jacket when my captain says, "Look, there is still 2 months on the contract. We will keep tailing her, and we'll meet again after our contract is up and give you any updates." The snob turns to him and says, "Don't bother, this is over. I'm ending it. Come when she is not home and get your equipment out." So a week later we did exactly that. Now, fruit for thought, when contracts like this are made, a small portion is paid up front as a commission fee, and the rest is paid at the end of the contract's allotted time. In his case, it is 6 months. Now, pay works like this. The commission is divided up between each PI as a bonus to our salary, and then the salary is what we get from the company to get us through the completion of the contract. The remaining balance after being paid by the client is divided into a cut for completion for the PIs, and a cut for the office. Good money when done right. So fast forward to the next payday after the contract is officially over. My unit gets a call from our office to come in on the next payday as there is an emergency meeting regarding us and the last contract. We get there and find out the snob pulled the funding and refused to pay us for the work. So we're getting paid, just not with the completion bonus. We all left super mad. We went to lunch and brainstormed how to get even with this dude. Then we remembered all the house footage of his dirty deeds. At first we wanted to blackmail him, but that's low and we're better than that. I remembered the wife, so I reached out to her. I set a date to sit down and explain everything to her. I showed her the videos. She cried for a good half hour. I think I broke her whole world. It was gut-wrenching. I then advised her to get a lawyer and proceeded to give her all of the collected evidence and my business card. So the aftermath. Fast forward about 6 months, I'm called into court as my company is suing him for fraud, breach of contract, and unpaid dues. My company wins the case easily, as his lawyer's argument was that we'd failed to deliver the results he wanted. But we weren't hired to deliver a product. We were hired to observe and report. We got paid in the end. I was contacted by the wife, who thanked me for all the evidence. She got a divorce. Because of all the evidence I gave her, she got almost everything. His huge house, both cars, and a huge cash sum. Moral of this story? Don't try to screw people over who specialize in gathering evidence and reconnaissance. Well, that backfired a little bit. I mean, this guy must have been pretty stupid if he's setting up all this surveillance equipment and then cheating right in front of the cameras. Honestly, all I got out of this story was that I kind of want to be a PI now. That sounds like fun. Okay, now the question of the day is business owners of Reddit. What's the most obnoxious reason an employee quit or had to be fired over? So an employee had a corporate card, charged a vacation, purse, fossil watch, takeout, along with overall being miserable to work with. She had a laptop stolen within a few weeks of joining. I fired her, and a few days later, a watch catalog from Fossil showed up at the office with her name on it. I have an active court cases for all the theft. Man, what I wonder with a lot of these employees is how did they end up getting hired in the first place? So my dad and I ran a business together, cleaning out foreclosed homes for a real estate agency as I was finishing high school. I was a senior, so I got out at lunchtime, and we could usually get a house done in half a day. Sometimes we'd get some bad ones, and we had a few guys that we would call to see if they wanted to make a quick $100 for a day's work. On my literal last day of class, my dad picked up one of our usual guys and got one house about 90% done by lunch. He was a pretty normal guy that we never had any trouble with. The guy we paid to help my dad went out to the truck and came back into the house with a gun and robbed my dad of his wallet and took the keys and left in our truck. Funny thing is, my dad only had the cash he was about to give him an hour later for finishing up the house. The state police got the guy's number from us, and they told him some bogus story about how my dad was being investigated for not paying his workers. And if he met them with the truck, they would get his statement and let him go. The idiot pulls up and gets arrested on the spot. He got 8 years in prison. And tonight on World's Dumbest Criminals. Man, did you guys ever watch that old show on True TV? I used to love watching that when I was a teenager. So we had a young IT intern helping out with some hardware inventory tasks. It wasn't uncommon for laptops not to make it back to us, as projects would hoard them from terminated employees. But one day we noticed his backpack open and a laptop of a model we used sticking out of it. Sent him to the other side of the building and checked the serial number, and yep, it was the one he reported as missing during a recent inventory. Opportunistic theft is one thing, but bringing it back into the office every day, just wow. Man, maybe this was the same guy that just got arrested for stealing that truck. So not a business owner, but at a previous job we had issues with food being stolen from the break room fridge. The company made a big stink about it and it kept happening, so they very obviously installed security cameras in the break room. Like big freaking cameras in plain sight, pointing them at the fridge, with our bosses being very direct about, "There's the camera, you really want to lose your job over eating someone's sandwich?" A few days later, a guy gets fired for stealing food. Literally on camera, just grabbing people's lunch out of the fridge and eating it. I mean, what did he think was gonna happen? Oh, they're probably bluffing. The camera's probably fake. Alright, we got one more story. So my dad owned his own business, working as a color corrector / editor. He had this one employee who had been there since day one and ended up becoming similar to an assistant manager. My dad owned that company for 10 plus years, and just recently, he had to fire that assistant manager because apparently he was telling employees and customers that my dad hates gays, people who aren't white, his kids, his whole family, that he's a terrible person, etc. Basically driving all business away, pushing my dad's company towards bankruptcy. Turns out he was a narcissistic sociopath. My dad's just sad his employees never trusted him enough to tell him about what this guy would say to them. Well, that does it for all of the stories and responses and everything. So, if you made it this far, here's your cat video you've been waiting all day for. Hey, what are you doing up there? Oh. Whoa, there's not a lot of space to stand up there. You're gonna get a lot of claw marks. Oh, make your way down. Perch on my arm. This is not a good position.
Oh no!
Anyways, thanks to everybody who's been watching all of these stories. I don't know. At first I thought that it would be a little bit difficult to get a new cat video every single day, but I mean, I've recorded 3 of them just today, so I guess it's not going to be that difficult, because she likes to get herself into a lot of trouble. So, anyways, have a nice day, and go ahead and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys next time.